Grab some potato salad and smite thy enemies, because we have the latest episode of American Gods, and this one is filled with some sweet goodbyes. The episode begins with a drunk Sweeney wallowing in his own despair after his attempt to resurrect Laura Moon didn't turn out as well as he'd hoped. He's back in Cairo, likely via his horde ability, thinking Laura may be there. And he's of the mind that the further she is away from him, the worse his luck gets.
The further you get from her, the worse your luck gets.
Shadow strolls along wanting to know where Laura is as well, but a drunk Sweeney mumbles on about walking on the gallows ground, a raven on each shoulder, and roots which reach from heaven to hell. He's referring to the tree Yggdrasil, which we see in the next scene, the same tree Odin pissed on 2 episodes ago and which has grown considerably. Wednesday asks the other gods if they know who their friends really are. Are they ready and willing to finally go to war? The only point of contention seems to be Bilquis, who betrayed them in the first episode, resulting in the death of Zariah. Wednesday then shows Shadow Gungnir, which has recently restored its runes due to the power of a Lude Reed leather jacket. He speaks a line from the Regis Codex, which was a book filled with ancient Norse poems and also happened to be the name of the theater in the last episode. Of particular note is him reciting Odin's rune song, which depicts Odin's sacrifice of himself to himself. Remember that Odin was said to have hung himself on the tree of Yggdrasil as a sacrifice to gain greater knowledge. He takes a branch from the tree which fuses into the spear, completing its repair. He gives it to Shadow to guard, after all Shadow is his bodyguard, and Wednesday says an odd line here, "We are the same," which could hint at their familial relationship. Perhaps now Shadow will finally find out what his big role in all of this is. Mama G gives Laura a hard time, wondering why she's here. She instills a little fear into her by turning into Smashana Kali, the chief goddess of tantric texts. Texts, not sex. Smashana typically holds a sword in one hand and a severed head in the other. The head represents the ego of humanity, and the sword is used to separate us from the ego, to remove the desire for and help us escape the material/physical world and be closer to the divine. She tells Mama G she needs 2 drops of blood infused with love in order for her potion to work, but Mama G says she has the power in her all along, and Laura's like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? While hitchhiking, Laura also sees the glow coming from Shadow, and then takes a van called the Getaway Van. Sweeney arrives at the funeral home in the hopes of finding Wednesday, but he's so out of it he thinks the mourners outside are wailing banshees. He stumbles upon Bilquis leading a service about Christ's love, but the sexual undertones are glaringly obvious as she tells the attendees to enter the garden and taste their fruit. This is Bilquis's new way to latch onto followers. Sweeney even says, so that's how you get your rocks off these days? Sweeney hasn't always been this way. Bilquis refers to how he used to be a great and golden king, but now he doesn't remember. His earliest memory is being with a woman who had the sight, meaning she could see the future and she predicted a dead woman who would seal his fate in America. It was soon after that the Grey Monks changed his story, turning the fair folk into greedy little men. The Grey Monks refer to the Tyrannensian Order, a medieval monastic order established in the 1100s, which shifted the perception of Mad Sweeney, resulting in his loss of power. But the most important thing in this scene is Bilquis telling Sweeney he had a wife. Sweeney tells Wednesday that he's quitting for good, but Wednesday holds the power here. Sweeney can't renege on his contract with a god. What little power he has left is held by Wednesday, and if he were to disobey, he'd essentially be killing himself, and Wednesday knows this. He finishes his potato salad, telling Sweeney to finish off Laura Moon for good. Drunk Sweeney yells at the mourning banshees and bashes his bottle, revealing a slew of ants. This sparks a memory about his dead wife Yaren and daughter Moira. Most of Sweeney's memories have gone, forgetting that he abandoned his people on the battlefield, resulting in a curse by the Bishop Ronan. Sweeney used to be a druid, but the Grey Monks turned on him and blamed them for their losses, which resulted in him going mad and being shunned in the forest. Sweeney asks Salim why he chooses to stay. Him and Jin are forced to battle because they owe it, but Salim does not. In many ways, Salim is the counter to Sweeney. Whereas Sweeney abandoned his lover on the battlefield, Salim has decided to stay. Back in his memory, we learned what really happened. A pregnant Yaran begs Sweeney to adapt and change to the increasing power of Bishop Ronan and the church, but a stubborn Sweeney refuses, believing the church to be slowly taking his power. As a result, he tells the priest to get out of his land, which ends up getting him cursed. He decides not to head into battle, knowing from a priest that a banshee would kill him should he step out on the battlefield, so he decides to be a coward and abandon his people, living out the rest of his days mad in the forest. And Sweeney wants to lend his cautionary tale to Shadow, telling him not to let Laura near Wednesday, warning him about how it feels nice to be in Wednesday's good books now, but just you wait. He warns him of the wailing banshees and how they foreshadow death coming to the house, and curiously tells him to stay out of the battle when it comes. Something he did years ago, and we all know how that turned out for him. In search of more booze, Sweeney stumbles upon Ibis, writing down the story of Le, the god king of Ireland who was eventually usurped by Mother Church and made small, literally into the form of a leprechaun. He speaks of his battle against Baelor, who prophesies that his grandson would kill him, but as Le holds up his dead head, it's revealed that it's actually Odin. This hints at why Sweeney owes a debt to him, why Odin and the Norse gods never fully took off in Ireland. And as Laura makes her way back to Cairo, we get this cool little road sign, one pointing to the old gods in Cairo and the other to the new gods in Future City. Wednesday toasts to the dismal collection of old gods when Sweeney stumbles in and goes for Gungnir, which Shadow has been sworn to protect. Sweeney is defeated by Shadow, but then proceeds to tell him how he was ordered by Wednesday to kill his wife. Not only that, but he banged her too. And using this moment of weakness, Sweeney tries to kill Wednesday with his own spear, but is killed by Shadow in the process. And with the spear lodged in his chest, he banishes it to the Horde. The one thing that was supposed to stop the new gods for good has been lost, just like Sweeney's life. And with only one more episode of the season to go, it's not looking good for the old gods. That epic battle between the old and the new we've been promised since episode 1 looks like it may be delayed. But I want to hear your thoughts below. I'll be here for the final episode, plus I've just come out with the new Game of Thrones breakdown, so be sure to check that out. And you can always find me on Twitter at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.